Whew, all right, it has been a long time coming. I have a deck video for you guys. I've been doing a lot of casting lately, so that's why you've been seeing all the tournament footage. So I do apologize I haven't been able to do a deck lately, but now I'm getting back into actually playing a little bit more with patch 1.6 coming out. With that said, I need to do some laddering. Still in plat right now, unfortunately. Super fun time to test out a lot of decks in plat, right? So we have a casino deck, which, not gonna lie, I was inspired by the one and only Nola Gold to make this deck, and a lot of the discard stuff was, buffed in patch 1.6, and holy bejesus is this deck fun to play. It's just straight up fun. It's completely nuts. You draw a crap ton, you discard a crap ton, you're leveling your Jinx, you're leveling your Twisted Fate. Oh, it's just super fun. So as always, like we used to do back when I was doing a bunch of deck videos, we're going to go through the deck first and the deck list, followed by 2 games that were pretty freaking fun. So strap yourself in, guys. We going over the casino deck, patch 1.6. All right, and as always, everybody, if you're new to the channel, do not forget to hit the subscribe button. We got tons of Legends of Runeterra content, lots of competitive content lately with so many awesome tournaments happening, but also, especially with patch 1.6 coming out, we are going to be doing a lot of deck building now, starting with the casino deck. And wow, this deck is super fun. There was a few cards that were changed, right? So we have a Zaunite Urchin here to play me, discard 1 and draw 1. This changed. Before it was a last breath effect, right? So you'd play it, you discard 1 to play it, and then last breath you would draw a card. Now it just happens instantaneously. We also have Sump Dredger, same exact type of deal, right? Before it was actually a 2-cost 4/3 that you would just discard a card to play it, and that was it. Now it costs a little bit more, but the stats are in line with the cost, right? It's a 4/3 Loyal Badger Bear, 3/4. But now you're getting the cycle effect as well. You discard 1, you draw 1. So it feels really good. To combo with some of that discard stuff, we do have a copy of Jury Rig in here, as well as 2 Flame Chompers. I'm still up in the air as to how many of these I want to play, because they still feel inherently bad. You have to play a lot of discard stuff to actually have these be of value. And even once they hit the field, like, it's still a 0/2 and a 1/1, right? So it's doesn't feel crazy good, especially if you don't have something to discard. And then we have 1 copy of Rummage, mainly because we only need 1 copy because there's so much freaking draw in this deck. Now, there is versions that I think Nola Gold's original version, he's running 3 Rummage, he's running 3 Jury Rig and even 3 Flame Chompers. We're sort of cutting back on that strategy a little bit here and going with, again, the Zaunite and the Sump Dredger because they've been buffed, but more importantly, the Pilfered Goods package. Only 2 copies of the Black Market Merchant, though, because that's pretty much the only plunder effects that we're running, and it's actually it's not incredibly easy to get plunder off. You do have Twisted Fate with the red card, which pretty much guarantees it, but otherwise, sometimes it can be a little bit hard to actually deal direct damage. Now, another thing in here, Patrol Wardens. So with how much you're drawing, you will usually actually be able to get this off for 2 mana. And a 2 mana 4/3, especially early on in the game, is super, super good. I've even considered putting a 3rd in here, maybe dropping a Pilfered Goods for a 3rd Patrol Warden. Awesome card. But generally speaking, we got Jinx, we got Twisted Fate. They like drawing, they like discarding. Jinx usually is going to level before Twisted Fate. At least in my experience, it's usually the Jinx is who we're going to level. And Twisted Fate, usually, I mean, if you get a Twisted Fate first and level him first, then you definitely win the game. But usually he's going to be a backup after you get a Jinx on the field, after you've kind of aggroed down your opponent a little bit. You level the Twisted Fate late game. It allows you to get some of that card advantage back that you lost with playing Jinx. The other thing, too, is if you do level Jinx before Twisted Fate, now you're getting 2 draws per turn towards his level up. And with this deck, with how much draws in here, with something like Brash Gambler, and you have stuff like Pool Shark in here, you will be able to actually level Twisted Fate pretty freaking easily. Usually in like 2, maybe 3 turns total. So Awesome deck overall. There's a lot of intricacies as far as combos and how different cards interact with each other. So without getting too much into that, we're going to get into the gameplay so you can see exactly what I mean. All right, so as you can see, again, a little bit of a rough month here. Not able to really play too much. But being in plat means we can just play more fun decks and have success with them, right? So I'm all for it. This is not really a mirror match, but it is a Twisted Fate deck. Also putting Ezreal as opposed to the Jinx. This is a deck that we've seen a ton of lately. The Astute Academic, something I didn't really bring up previously when I was discussing the deck, can actually be very scary for your opponent. It also kind of gums up the board early game, right? And what I mean by that is it can give you a fearsome blocker if you need it early on, just by drawing 2 in 1 turn. It's just overall a pretty good card that just kind of sticks around. You can see it's even getting a Thermo Beam out here, which honestly, love to see that. Would love to have a Thermo Beam used on anything but Jinx and Twisted Fate and really anything else in the deck. You do also see the Patrol Wardens come out early here, and you can already see, like, we got the 4 damage through with the Patrol Wardens, but you can already see how big of a deal Patrol Wardens is in this matchup. It's absolutely nuts how strong that card actually is at 2 mana. It can trade pretty much with everything on the board here. It is able to also block this Precious Pet. So just to give you an idea of how useful it is. You do see one of those combos get off, right, with this Jury Rig getting discarded and being able to draw one as well. It's neat, I guess, but again, you can kind of see where there's not really that much to gain in terms of value with the Jury Rig, which is why I'm not exactly crazy about the card, but it does give you some other discard targets to work with Rummage, to work with what we just played there, which I can't even remember that 1-cost card because it's never been played before this. But so you see also, we go ahead, play the Twisted Fate. Obviously, we all know how good Twisted Fate is as a card. Having that variety of spells to choose from, it's one of the reasons why this deck is at least a little bit consistent with how crazy it might seem. And the best part about this deck is Slotbot. And if you actually watch Nola Gold's video on the deck, he actually mentioned Slotbot is the 3rd champion. I kind of like that because it's incredibly strong. Like, let's be honest. When it takes damage, it's basically healing every turn. So it's kind of like a pseudo regeneration. But on top of that, it can over regen. And basically what I mean by that is when you draw more, it just becomes this huge freaking thing that's on the field. So overall, Slotbot, super good card. Like, they buffed it, I think, after like 1 patch of Bilgewater being out. And I just can't even tell you enough how absolutely incredible this card is. This deck wins games with Slotbot. It's usually either a level Twisted Fate, a level Jinx, or Slotbot. And that's probably why Nola said it was a 3rd champion. So, and it's also super fun. Just every turn, it switches up the stats. It's like that perfect little sprinkle of RNG that we all love. You can see here, we actually have the Jinx and the Twisted Fate on the field. I don't mind sacking the Jinx there. I basically played it to keep up tempo and be mana efficient. I don't mind the Jinx dying there because it means that I save my Twisted Fate. The Thermo Beam does not happen on the Twisted Fate. And now we're probably going to look towards leveling the Twisted Fate. You can see, too, the Astute Academic there. We got the 3 attack with the extra draw, which made it able to trade a little bit better with the blockers there. We're going to get the Pool Shark off. Something to note with Pool Shark. It's a 1-drop, does not mean you need to play it on turn 1. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've seen people play that card on turn 1. You will most likely end up ditching the card you draw from it. It's fleeting. You can't play it on turn 2 most of the time. So even if you have like 2 Pool Sharks in your first hand and it's turn 1, unless you're playing like an aggro deck against an aggro deck and you absolutely need to save your life, don't play that card. It's great late game. It's a 1-drop. I know this sounds weird, but it's a 1-drop that's way better the later in the game you go, assuming you're not top decking, obviously. But even top decking, it gets you 2 draws, right? It's basically just a free draw. So just keep that in mind when you're playing it. You do see here that we get off the Black Market Merchant and the Twisted Fate. I think, yes. God, I love that animation. Twisted Fate, getting the sweet level up. Now, it feels a little bad with what's in our hand. We only have a Make It Rain, and we saw that coming a mile away. Obviously, the Riptide Rex after the warning shot. So we do get 1 quick proc of the Twisted Fate. But what really matters is that once the Twisted Fate's leveled, the rest of the Twisted Fates in your deck are leveled. And that's what really matters, because this deck draws so much. I guess it's one of the weird things, right? It's kind of like it's counterintuitive or like an oxymoron if you think of it. This deck is very inconsistent in that it's based on RNG, but it's actually not inconsistent because you're drawing so much. So having so much draw power actually allows you to more consistently draw into things like Slotbot, like TF, like Jinx. And when you have a deck that's able to draw into your champions so consistently, and not only that, but multiple copies of your champions, then you have an equation for success, because right there is how you win the game. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, I don't know if it's this game or the next game, that I've won with multiple Super Mega Death Rockets from Jinx. That card is so good. It's only 1 mana now. I mean, I don't really think it needed that buff when they changed it, but it is what it is. Either way, it's just really good to consistently draw into your champions and slot bots, which, if you guys haven't noticed, while we've been going through this game, we got 3 on the field. So that's a thing. Slotbot, if I haven't already said it, is freaking amazing. We get the Jinx down too, which means that we are able to level the Jinx. Now, this Twist of Fate sucks, right? And I'm very up in the air here as to what to do. I can go face, hope to level the Jinx, and then just win on a Super Mega Death Rocket. The problem is if he has any other kind of removal, that doesn't work. So I'm really thinking here, okay, what do I do? What do I do to win the game? I decide going after the keg is the right way to go because that saves an additional slot bot. And that's a big deal because the slot bot, again, it has most of its stats in the attack right now. And you can see now it just swaps. Now it's a 4/6. Now it lives. So ultimately, I think that gained me the best chance to live. It's going to be able to block a lot of what my opponent has. It kind of sucks drawing the Brash Gambler here. I'm not going to lie. The second I drew this card, I was like, shit, I'm taking this out of the deck because it totally doesn't work with Jinx. But although I cannot discard it now, although I cannot play it and get a Super Mega Death Rocket, which keep in mind, a Super Mega Death Rocket would not have really gotten rid of the attack this turn. I would have killed one other thing with Static Shock, but that's it because I do have the Mystic Shot I ended up drawing. So it's actually not the end of the world. When all is said and done, because the Jinx is drawing me too, I actually am able to play it the very next turn, and that is what just gets it going. We have the slot bot now as a 3/8. This Brash Gambler is going to attack. It's going to increase it even more. I actually considered not, and this is where this deck becomes crazy at this point, right? You're like, okay, I'm going to play this 4-cost, discard 2 to play it, and I'm discarding Twisted Fate to do so. That's a play that you make in this deck, and it ends up working out because now, even with the gold card, the Brash Gambler can still attack. I'm able to draw 2 additional cards, which, as you can see, we draw 2 pick a card. That pick a card is absolutely insane in this deck as well, which means we're going to be able to play the Mega Death Rocket. We're going to shuffle 3 back into our deck, which means we're going to draw 3 at the beginning of our turn, probably get another Mega Death Rocket. You can see how fast I'm talking. That's how nuts this deck is. Like, I just want to throw that out there. This deck is absolutely redonkulous when you start drawing like this. Like, look at, we have a Twisted Fate, and like, look at our hand now. Like, we completely got rid of our entire hand, and now we are back to having 5 cards in our hand. We have lethal. They have some stuff too, but it doesn't matter. We had 2 get excited as well. So, not to mention if we discarded our whole hand, which we could have, we would have had another Super Mega Death Rocket. So, yeah, you could say it's pretty cool deck. It's pretty cool. You can see the slot bots in action there, getting 3 of them on the field, which pretty much just made it super hard for my opponent to really do anything that game. And now we have more of an aggro matchup. So this is a very common, scout deck. We see this all the time. So being able to take home a victory versus this deck, it feels really good because this is such a common ladder deck right now. Everybody's playing it just to try to grind a diamond. We don't do that here. We don't do that. We're getting diamond with Casino, all right? And then we're going to get masters with Casino. That's how we roll. That's how we roll here. So we get a slot bot early. Always feels good. Slot bot on 3 is so freaking good because you're going to be able to get so many more procs of his effect. That's actually why we decided to play the Rummage there. So Slotbot can also be good against something like Scouts. Although I will say I probably I probably won this game because he missed Bannerman, so thank freaking God that they play a lot of Bilgewater cards in that deck. But the slot bot, if it lands on a high health, it actually is able to then block a lot of stuff on my opponent's side of the field. Luckily, it lands on 3 health, so I am still able to block at least the War Chefs here. I take a little bit of damage, but now the slot bot's going to be shuffling again alongside my second slot bot. So even though things are looking pretty bad, now I have a lot of stuff on my field that will be able to eventually trade down the board with my opponent. I have the Zonite Urchin who's actually able to trade with the Cytheria at some point if he doesn't buff her. He probably will get the Cytheria buffed at some point, but these slot bots just do work. All right, whenever they land on high health, it just feels so good. I think on the next turn they actually land on even higher health, which is amazing actually. So the reason why we're mystic shotting so much stuff and just focusing on targeting our opponent's field is because they lose if they can't keep a wide field. Although, you know, most of those probably should be going face. A lot of times with this deck, you're using Super Mega Death Rockets and Get Exciteds and Mystic Shots and stuff like that to go face. We don't care about that. Like you can see right there, that Bannerman, if we did not Mystic Shot that other unit, there would have been another unit buffed up to a 3/3 there. It would have felt really, really bad. So now here is where the slot bots, like I was just mentioning, come in huge help. If I will say that was a little bit of RNG that they landed on high health, so thank the bejesus. But obviously, the more that you draw, the more consistently that the slot bots are going to land on higher health. So they give me pretty good blockers here to trade with my opponent. He's getting a little bit more damage through, but I decide to get excited. It actually levels the Jinx mid-combat here, which is going to do work here in a second because now this Cytheria is going to be at 1 health. The Bannerman's at 2. My slot bots, they just keep... Oh, it feels so good. And now, like, the Jinx is going to draw 2. That means they're both getting buffed by 2 more on the following round. And I have the Pool Shark. So this is where, like, you empty your hand in this deck, but it has so many other cards to start drawing and getting that engine going again. It's kind of cool, actually, how it's like burst, right? It's you burst all your stuff at once, and then you slow down for, like, a turn or 2. But then once you draw, like, maybe 2 turns on average, you're going to get some other card that's going to be able to get the engine going again. So you burst, you go like 100 miles an hour, you're back down to like 30. And then you're back up to 100 miles an hour again, back down to 30. And that's kind of how this deck works. It just goes balls to the wall for like a couple turns straight, and then it chills out for a second. But it has a lot of good top decks to really get the ball rolling again. Again, you can see here we are focusing on removing the field. We're getting rid of this Bannerman. We discarded a card from our hand to get the Super Mega Death Rocket, which will then... not clear the field, but do a pretty good job of getting rid of a lot of our opponent's stuff. Getting rid of the Grizzled Ranger is big here because we're so low on health. All right, we're not incredibly low, but 12 is still like danger zone with, you know, some sort of rally effect if they are playing it. This Grizzled Ranger is going to be able to do work with its scout attacks. You know, you attack once with it. We're probably going to have to let it through depending on what our slot bots roll to. And we can only block one thing really with the Jinx, and then it's going to be down to 1 health, and that's not really fun having your Jinx even be at 1 health regardless. So this does get through. It gets the Loyal Badger Bear. Not mad about it. Now our Jinx actually trades pretty favorably with the Badger Bear, and just as I said, we have our next draws, and look at this. Just look at this Patrol Wardens. Like, it's getting shuffled back in. I'm pretty sure I do the pick a card and shuffle it back in, which also burst speed gets me the Super Mega Death Rocket, which is crucial here to get the oh Jesus, Valor, that's the name of it, and Jagged Butcher cleared off the field so my opponent doesn't have as wide of an attack. This feels really bad. I'm not going to lie. I started to worry here about just straight up losing. But my opponent, I think instead of, I'm not sure why my opponent did this. They hooked the slot bot. One of the slot bots. Was it that one? Which basically, I think because he's trying to go for lethal, maybe. He wants to kill the slot bot for sure. Or maybe he recognizes he doesn't have lethal. He wants to make sure he gets rid of both slot bots. In this instance, I had to block. Sorry, he actually challenges the Jinx. So I do lose the Jinx, but I opt to take the damage here because my slot bots are basically going to heal back up to full. Now, super dangerous. Obviously, I'm at 4 health now. But again, look at this. We were at 0. The game was looking like it was lost. And then bam, we got 4 cards in our hand. And then the red card into the black market merchant, into the oh no, I actually saved the astute academic for the get excited. I was gonna say you should have played the astute academic first there, just to get the additional draw effect off. But yeah, and we get the keg because we want lethal. We know that the 2 damage getting through from either the Twisted Fate or the black market merchant, plus the 4 damage from the get excited, is going to end up being lethal this turn. And no leveled Twisted Fate this game. But again, we leveled the Jinx first, and we were actually able to leverage her to, control the field throughout the game, destroy a lot of our opponent's minions. So as long as we kept trading down on the board with our slot bots, we're golden. And that's exactly what, in this game anyways, was able to allow us to get the victory. All right, guys, that is the casino deck, or at least my iteration of it. Freaking love this deck. It's super fun, regardless of if it ever ends up being competitive. This deck is super fun to play. You, like I said, 0 to 100, back and forth throughout the game. Absolutely crazy. Makes it feel more like Jinx and Twisted. Like, it feels like Jinx and Twisted Fate, right? Jinx is nuts. Twisted Fate, RNG, right up both of their alleys. So, but I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Looking forward to making a lot of other crazy decks in the next couple of weeks as patch 1.6 kind of fleshes itself out. I will be casting this weekend as usual, so definitely check out my stream. But as always, everybody stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you, and peace out.